Ayan mga kameta, kamusta kayo diyan? Naku po, ulitin natin na nawala yung explainer natin kahapon. Ibang klase. More than half an hour ang ginastos natin dyan para explain itong Sovereign Wealth Fund. Ano ba ito? Anong pakanan nito? Ano ang bag nito? In-explain natin lahat yan. Yung mga pros, yung mga cons. Ayan, bigla nawala yung video natin. Na-block yung video natin. Hindi naman siguro conspiracy theory yan. Kasi di ba nagpakita ako doon sa game ng Japan and Germany. Mukhang baka na copyright issue tayo dyan. For me naman, dapat hindi nangyari sana yan dahil may commentary naman tayo on the sides, and by the way, for free naman online dapat yan. So, I don't know ano mga meron dyan. Anyway, by the way, congratulations also to South Korea. Yung mga natin dyan, fellow Asians. So, hindi lang Japan, but also South Korea. Although I would say that Japan was able to beat yung full team ng both Germany and Espanya with some substitution with Morata. In the case of Tunisia and South Korea, I think medyo B team na kasi naka-qualify na yung France and Portugal. So hindi full team, but nonetheless, congratulations dun sa South Korea for a fantastic goal. Grabe yung goal ni Son. I was so impressed with goal ni Son. Ibang klase talaga yung goal ni Son talaga. The best. The next level. So congratulations to South Korea for pulling off another major upset, not only against Portugal, but knocking out also Uruguay. And to cap it all, Cameroon was also able to defeat Brazil. But then again, this was, I think, not the full team of Brazil. Pinapahingan nila yung mga top players nila for the elimination round kasi na-qualify na sila. So ito na. But the Cameroon also was, hindi Cameron Diaz, but si Cameron was able to pull off also this big upset, beating Brazil, so becoming the first African country to defeat Brazil in a World Cup competition. Ayan talaga tayo. Very interesting World Cup. So three Asian teams, because Australia is under AFC, but you can say Oceania and Asia. And then two African teams made it, and then a couple of South American teams, and the rest are European teams. So this could be very competitive. This could be very interesting. So I'm very excited. I'm still happy about the World Cup. At tama yung prediction natin. Sabi ko, 3 Asian teams will make it to the next round, and that's exactly what happened. Although again, Australia's AFC, Asian Football, kasama siya sa Football Federation ng Asia. But, well, Asia na rin sila. Sige. Ay nako. Mamaya na tayo magbardagulan. Ito, balikan natin itong issue ng Sovereign Wealth Fund. Mga kameta, gusto ko sana ipakita yung mga goals no? Sabi ko baka naman mabablock na naman tayo, copyright tayo. Alam niya talaga. Balikan natin itong issue na to because it looks like even among the Marcoses, there's not a total agreement on the direction forward when it comes to this Maharlika Fund. Ito, by the way, mamaya naman sabihin na naman nila satire, ano yan ha. So let me just bring out itong graphics na to, yung na natin sa isang think tank, no? Andun sa baba yung impact leadership pa yan. Yeah. Let me post it also yung direct quotes from Senator Amy Marcos about her concerns on whether this makes sense and whether this is the best way forward, no? Ayan mga kameta. Ayan na naman tayo eh. So actually, hindi na ako nagsasalita yan. Sila na yan ha. So actually, Senator Amy Marcos, presidential sister, meron siya mga concern dito ta 275 billion pesos na Maharlika Wealth Fund proposal, no? Now, of course, comes from no less than her relatives and family, check natin yan. Anong sinasabi niya? So, I think she has a number of concerns, including sourcing of the funding, no? Sourcing of the funding. Interesting. So, ayon dito sa report na yan, Senator Amy Marcos on Friday, December 2, nag-express siya ng reservations dito sa Maharlika Wealth Fund na isang 275 billion pesos fund proposal by her cousin, Speaker Ferdinand Martin Romualdez, at kanyang nephew, of course, Senior Deputy Majority Leader Sandro Marcos. Ito ay ayon kay Senadora, Hindi ko pa nababasa yung bill pero ako kinakabahan pagkat sa panahong ito ang sama ng ekonomiya. So in short, she's questioning whether we can even afford this kind of additional fund. I'll explain to you guys more. Ulitin ko a bit of our lecture from yesterday. Ay nako, na-stress talaga ako na wala biglang lecture natin. At she raised also concerns ng high risk na magkakaroon ng mga kababalaghan. At she raised yung case ng 1MDB corruption scandal dun sa Malaysia's Sovereign Wealth Fund. Ayon sa kanya, nakita natin ang kapitbahay natin Malaysia, talagang disaster ang nangyari sa kanilang 1MDB na Sovereign Wealth Fund na nakurakot na yung pera, ibinaksak pa ang buong pamahalaan at yung partido ng nag-umpisa sa Republika ng Malaysia. She's referring to the UMNO or Barisan Nasional, no? Of former Prime Minister, now imprisoned Prime Minister Najib Razak, no? So ayon sa kanya, ang Pilipinas naman walang excess wealth katulad ng mga countries na Norway, no? Na get a lot of super profits from their natural resources, their natural gas, etc. Sabi niya, ang Norway ay siyang template nagkaroon ng Sovereign Wealth Fund nung nagkaroon sila ng North Sea oil. Ang gas profits nagkaka-windfall. Kumbaga nanalo sila ng loto, ika nga wala na tayong napapapanalunan. Nakaka-nervous yata. Okay, actually this is very interesting because it's very similar to the points I was raising exactly yesterday. And in fairness to Senadora, she also raised some concerns about saan yung isosource yung funds, no? Kasi meron tayong guys, meron tayong mga so we have a much more detailed proposals. I think Mitch, yung isang kameta natin, actually mentioned that the bill kind of lays out the architecture of the Sovereign Wealth Fund, Maharlika Sovereign Wealth Fund that they're proposing. So let me bring out that graphic. And then, since na-block yung mini lecture natin kahapon, kailangan ko ulitin i-explain sa inyo saan galing itong Sovereign Wealth Fund idea na yan. What is it all about? Again, much quicker kasi, ay nako, nakakapagod na ulitin na naman. But for the purpose of course, discussion and mga kameta. So, ito yung proposal na nakita natin mga kameta na lumabas, na shinare ng News 5. So, ito po yung mangyaring proposal. So, ang initial contributions po ay 125 billion pesos from GSIS, 50 billion pesos from SSS, 50 billion pesos from Land Bank of the Philippines, 25 billion pesos from Development Bank of the Philippines, and 25 billion from National Treasury. Alright. And then doon yung annual contributions pa meron dito. So meron annual contributions na i-determine in coordination with Secretary of Finance, 50% annual dividend ng Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas at 10% ng gaming proceeds ng Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporations. And then magkaroon po ng isang board, no? So there'll be a board of directors na siyam, no? Ng board of directors na magbobo ito. And then the idea is that the Philippine president, nonetheless, could be also very much involved in oversight and governance of this important fund, no? And napagod na tayo. Okay, mga kameta, let me quickly balikan yung discussion natin kahapon na na-block para naman makita nyo, although I'll hope to be able to download it and upload it elsewhere kasi I don't want to do exactly the same na ulitin ko yung sinabi ko kahapon. And sabi ko nga, etong may update tayo, we're seeing more results, more reactions coming from different corners. And when I said we want to see the final versions because hindi pa naman yan naging batas. Dadaan pa yan sa Senado, dadaan pa yan sa scrutiny, dadaan pa yan sa executive. So, bill pa lang yan. So, let's see where this one is gonna go. Okay? So, let's check where this is gonna go. Ayan mga kaibigan natin sa Ormoc City. Kamusta kayo dyan? Kamusta si Richard Gutierrez? The other Richard. Okay. Let me go back again to our mini lecture kahapon, mga kameta. Sabi ko, so tama si Senadora Amy Marcos na on one hand, you had the experience in Europe, especially in the case of Norway, na dahil sa sobrang yaman ng bansa na yan at ayaw nila maging na masayang yung kanilang super profits dun sa mga exports nila dahil kung saan-saan mo na lang ininvest or kung pinasok mo bigla sa loob ng bansa, that could create an inflationary spike because people's purchasing power goes up. And kahapon actually we discussed yung case ng so-called the Dutch disease, no? So this is not a biological, this is an economics term. So the Dutch disease refers to a situation whereby after Netherlands had rapid economic expansion because of some discovery in natural resources like natural gas, etc. What happened is that their currency appreciated so much because they were earning so much money. They were so much exporting compared to importing. So their exports became very expensive. And over time, that had a very negative impact in terms of their export sector. And that created a lot of domestic problems and distortions. So many countries realize, including Norway, now when you're making super profits, better put the super profits somewhere else. Foreign exchange reserves, and much better if you put it in a sovereign wealth fund. No? Now, in Asia also, we had an experience that inspired us to build up our foreign exchange reserves at yung ating sovereign wealth fund. So if you look at the biggest sovereign wealth funds in the world, Norway is just one of them. No? So you have from the Middle East, you have from Asia, and you also have from, of course, Europe. No? So ito yung list ng mga biggest countries with sovereign wealth funds. Okay. So ito yung mga bansa. So you can see China is there, Norway is there, next to China, Abu Dhabi, Kuwait, Qatar, Hong Kong, Singapore, so on and so forth, right? So if you look at the top 10, these are really wealthy countries who are export oriented, industrialized export oriented, or massive natural gas and oil and carbohydrate product exporters from Norway to Abu Dhabi to Qatar to Saudi Arabia, etc. So tama yung sinasabi ni Ayon Marcos na usually when you talk about sovereign fund, we're talking about countries na sobrang laki ng kita nila sa exports and they have so much foreign exchange reserves and surplus resources. So let me bring out the countries with the biggest, for instance, foreign exchange reserves. Ibig sabihin, they export more than they import. So marami silang mga excess money dyan, right? And ang question is, what do you do with that? No? So you can see there's a direct correlation between countries with huge foreign exchange reserves and countries also have among the biggest sovereign wealth funds. So again, you see here China, Japan, etc. These are also Norway, Saudi Arabia, Hong Kong, Singapore. So a lot of the countries with huge foreign exchange reserves also tend to be countries with sovereign wealth funds because you want to use yung excess money mo smartly, no? That's the idea, right? That's the idea we're talking about. So again, tama si Ayon Marcos na you're talking about countries with surplus resources when you're talking about sovereign wealth fund. Ay, na-delete natin sarili natin 1 second. Now, in the case of Asia, mga kameta, let me discuss. In the case of Asia, we had a trauma just over 2 decades ago, which pushed us to be much more forthcoming with our strategy vis-a-vis using surplus funds. So this was the Asian financial crisis, 1997, 1998. I told you guys if you want to know about background of the best works I can suggest para basahin nyo is either an insider view from Nobel Prize winner in economics and former IMF chief Joseph Stiglitz, just a background. So globalization and discontents, very interesting analysis there. A shorter version, around just 7,000 words, so journal article level, and very well written naman. I suggest Benedict Anderson's article on London Review of Books para maintindihan niyo yung konteksto ng Asian financial crisis. To make it, to really make it brief and, what happened there is that we liberalize our current account balance, we liberalize our financial markets, and then bigla nagkaroon na marami speculative money na casino-style financial investments, and then bigla nung nag-pull out sila from Thailand, baksak ang Thailand, then nag-contagion across the region. That was what happened during the Asian financial crisis. And the IMF, the World Bank, the Clinton administration, all of them had a big role in encouraging us to adopt very irresponsible policies. So that was a very, very traumatic experience. So these are the 2 works that I suggest, mga kameta, to give you some background. on what happened during the Asian financial crisis, let me just show you some numbers about how sobrang grabing impact ng Asian financial crisis so that you appreciate what we're talking about here. Kasi yung trauma na yan really, really encourage Asian countries to save up on their foreign exchange reserves. And a lot of these countries later on will build up yung kanilang mga sovereign wealth funds. So this is, for instance, the impact on the exchange rates during the Asian financial crisis. This is based on a paper by the former governor of Central Bank of Australia. Um, so you can see there massive currency collapse for East Asian countries, but even worse is than currency collapse is you look at the GDP growth rate nila, baksak talaga big time, 1997, 1998. So Indonesia goes from 7% growth rate from 1987 to 1996 on average to negative 6.4%, right? And even after recovery, it was never close to the levels of growth it experienced from 1987 to 1996. Korea goes from 8.1% to 1%. Malaysia's from 9.5% to negative 0.8%. I mean, Indonesia, their GDP contracted by almost 20%. That's how traumatic the situation was for them. Philippines, hindi naman masyado mataas ang growth natin. So we went from 3.6% to 1.4%. So the impact was relatively mild because we're not really growing that fast. Anyway, not integrated. Singapore goes from 9.2% to 2.8%. So overall, the average growth rate of East Asia collapses from 7.6% from 1987 to 1996 to 0% from 1997 to 1999. So this is the Asian financial crisis and its immediate aftermath. And even during the recovery, we're growing at only 4.5% from 2000 to 2006. No? So, ang grabe impact niya. In the case of Indonesia, because the economic contraction was huge, close to 20%, base dun sa libro ni Rushir Sharma, The Breakout Nations, there was a political revolution and the Suharto dictatorship actually collapses. There was also massive violence and riots targeting the business community, including Chinese, Indonesian business community. They became the scapegoat for the Asian financial crisis. So, sobrang grabing trauma nito. Kaya nga, in response to that, mga kameta, ang ginawa ng mga maraming bansa dito sa East Asia was never again, essentially, no? They try to make sure na hindi ulit mangyari sa atin yan. So, they bulked up big time dun sa kanilang mga savings, no? So, look at it. The impact was horrible. So, kaya para hindi na mangyari ulit sa atin yan, sabi natin, okay, etong mga Wall Street, etong mga puti, etong mga foreigners, whatever, okay? Even if mag-pull out kayo ng money bigla, we have so much foreign exchange reserves. We have so much, kumbaga, reserves, winter time savings, na pwede kaya natin i-defend yung sarili natin. Doon naman sa mga Middle Eastern countries, they had multiple booms in terms of the price of oil and their export earnings. And they learned from the experience of some of other countries. For instance, the case of the Persian monarchy back in the 70s. They were making a lot of money. They injected money internally. It created hyperinflation, distortion. Later on, they had revolution. So, what the Persian Gulf Arab countries learned, Emiratis, Saudis, Bahrainis, Qataris, etc., was when you're making a lot of money, put it in a sovereign wealth fund. Wag mo inject directly domestically. And then, that sovereign wealth fund na yan, parang, ang pwede mong gamitin dyan is, you can manage that fund in an intelligent way whereby you can invest it in other sectors all around the world, diversified portfolio, kumita ka pa. And over time, meron ka pang parang meron kang, di ba, emergency fund just in case, no? Now, the thing is, the sovereign wealth fund makes a lot of sense if you make a lot of money and you have a lot of surplus. Tama yung sinabi niya yung Marcos, no? It also makes a lot of sense in terms of giving you some cushion when things are going south, especially kung marami kang mga foreign exchange reserves also, di ba? It also gives you an option for making more out of your reserves by investing in high ROI sectors abroad, no? Yung mga mataas ang return of investment, no? So, that in theory makes a lot of sense, perfect sense, especially after the traumas that we experience, including mga rich country traumas, right? So this is what happened in the Dutch disease, di ba? Ang dami nilang pera, problema, this brought down this made their currency more appreciated, tuloy yung exports nila expensive in the case of Netherlands, no? So that affected their manufacturing sector, that affected their productive sectors over time. So minsan, yung masyadong maraming pera could affect you very negatively, di ba? And in fact, interestingly, if you look at the life stories of marami doon na nanalo ng loto, there's some studies to suggest that over time, some of them actually ended up more sad dahil they didn't know how to manage yung sudden windfalls, yung windfall of money and resources. So the same thing with countries. You have to properly manage that. The problem though is, mga kameta, oops, anong ginawa ko sa sarili ko? Theory is not always reality, right? Now, Norway has been managing well their sovereign wealth fund. Singapore has been managing well their sovereign wealth fund. China, to a certain degree, you can say that. But that's not the case everywhere. So on one hand, you have cases of sovereign wealth fund being used for, some would say, vanity purchases. So for instance, the Saudi Arabia used its sovereign wealth fund to purchase itong English club na Newcastle United. Other Gulf Arab sovereign wealth funds or related arms of their state were also involved in big ticket purchases of fancy clubs, football clubs, etc. across the region. So we have on one hand this kind of, some would say, vanity shows, vanity purchases, and some would also say soft power purchases, right? Depending on how you want to look at it, no? Now, even worse, you have a case of Malaysia 1MDB whereby it went totally south, guys, no? Na yung sovereign wealth fund ay naging isang fund na naggamit for kinurakot, in short, ng big time. Super big time na kinurakot. We're talking about billions of dollars, right? Tuloy nakulong yung kanilang prime minister, na paalis sa power yung UMNO na 60 years in power almost straight. Ito yung 1MDB scandal. Now, if you want a good book, a good analysis of what happened there, I suggest read this fantastic investigative journalist book. One of the best books of 2019-2020. Itong $1 billion whale. Super crazy because itong 1MDB scandal na yan, it got actually biglang may na-connect pa siya doon sa Wolf of Wall Street, which is also about financial scandal, because yung funding pala doon sa movie ng Wolf of Wall Street, partly na-attach yan dito sa corruption scandal na nangyari sa 1MDB. Like, super crazy yung nangyari sa Malaysia. Sobrang crazy. Created political crisis, almost regime change. If you analyze the impact of the 2018 elections in Malaysia, so much so that over time, over the next couple of years, it paved the way not only for Najib Razak, the former prime minister, to go to jail, but also for perennial opposition leader, reformist Anwar Ibrahim, to finally become the prime minister of Malaysia. So that's how big the impact of this corruption scandal was, no? So pagdating sa Pilipinas, ang tanong is, first of all, is this something that bagay sa atin, considering na hindi naman ganun kalaki yun? I mean, we have, in fairness naman, decent foreign exchange reserves, no? But we are an import-oriented rather than export-oriented economy. So, do we have, how much surplus fund we have? That's one question. As in, bagay ba sa atin yan? Or baka pinipilit lang natin yan, diba? Para lang makibagay dun sa may ibang bansa. Or some would say, baka ano na lang yan, performative lang yan, dahil may mga inflation, may mga ganon-ganon, ano lang yan, pang-distract lang yan, sinasabi ng iba, parang pa-social fund. Yung iba naman, sinasabi nila, eto na naman, may confidential fund, now may Maharlika fund, ano itong mga fund na yan? Kamustang transparency niyan? How do we make sure na 1MDB doesn't happen? So Joey Salceda, Representative Salceda, has come out again supporting the government. Of course, alam niyo naman si Joey Salceda, his prediction always come right. Sabi niya tatakbo si Sara Duterte for president. Ano nangyari? Sabi niya yung pesos maging 65, 68 potentially. Ano nangyari? Anyway, I don't know. I'm just saying, interesting that no less than presidential sister is saying baka hindi tama na magkaroon tayo ng sovereign wealth fund kasi kung bagay ba ito to us at all. As I said, in theory, it makes some sense, but the devil is in the details. And, considering the Philippines, ang laki ng problema natin sa transparency, accountability, is this the way forward? No? Yun ang isang tanong. The other question that has been also raised is yung contributions, diba? So for instance, GSIS will be contributing what, 125 billion pesos, so more than $2 billion, no, more than $2 billion ang contribution. Ang sinasabi ng iba dyan, and I really suggest follow folks like this. These are economists I respect. These are banker, academic, economist people. Yung mga yan ang dapat fina-follow niya. Yung mga they know what they're talking about, diba? Uh, so for instance, on Twitter, I really suggest follow for economic issues si Enrico Villanueva, no? Isa siyang banker, he has a lot of experience in finance sector. Uh Very respectful guy. We had some exchanges and all. Very nice guy, very respectful guy. I had the pleasure of having some exchanges with him. Hopefully one day we can have him interview him, get more of his point of views. He has had some very interesting insights. Ang point niya is, etong sovereign wealth fund ba yan, baka naman mag-jeopardize yan yung mga financial institutions ng government natin. At yung GSIS at SSS, meron ba silang surplus funds? Hindi ba kailangan yan for their own kind of actuarial liabilities, etc.? Should yung Land Bank of the Philippines, Development Bank of the Philippines, dapat ba ma-reduce nila yung development commitments nila para lang accommodate itong sovereign wealth fund? So he's raising many important points, which interestingly, Amy Marcos is also raising similar points, no? In terms of saan tayo maghuhugot ng funds for itong sovereign wealth fund na yan, no? And then of course the biggest issue, transparency. How do you make sure na hindi mangyari ang 1MDB, no? So the devil's in details. There's a lot that's happening there. So I'll keep it there, mga kameta. Thank you very much. So in a way, inulit lang natin yung ano natin, yung meta natin kagabi. Nakakapagod yung ulitin mo na naman. I hope this one wala wala nang issue dito, di ba? I really hope walang issue dito. Ayan. Wait lang Nagbabardago lang daw. Hindi naman. Nag-joke lang kasi mga kaibigan ko. Let me give my appreciation dun sa mga comments and suggestion dito. Super thank you so much. Maraming salamat. As always, again, super supportive na naman yung mga iba dyan. Si Ma'am Jocelyn Lumberio, si Mitch. Thank you very much for your support. Kay Chas Sibal, kay Maria Esmeralda Casatya, yan. Thank you very much, Annabel Gamoras. Thank you also for joining us. Kay Noemi Tablada, as always. Ayan. Yung iba naman, marami mga comments. Ano ba to? Slash fund ba to? Confidential fund ba to? Bakit mahilig sa fun? Fun. Super fun. It's more fun in the Philippines. Ay, meron na akong... Meron na naman ako eh. Eh, meron ako naisip, di ba? Yung it's more fun in the Philippines. It's more fun in the Philippines. Daming funds. Eh naman ako eh. Hindi ko bigla na lang naisip ko yung mga ganun eh. It's more fun in the Philippines. Ayan. Confidential, Maharlika. Ayan na naman tayo. Kailangan natin magano dito mga kameta. Ay nako. Ang social. Social natin. Ayan. Okay. Mga meta, maraming salamat dun sa mga comment and suggestions. I look forward to more discussions on this. It's more fun in the Philippines. All right? It's more fun in the I know. Okay, mamaya yan. Ituloy na natin mamaya. Maraming salamat mga kameta. Nagana naman ako dito eh. Hindi ko talaga makontrol sarili ko minsan eh. Kailangan ko talaga sabihin eh. Diba? Sa dami natin problema. Inflation, rice, yung cost, ganyan. Tapos, eto pa. Hi. Mga kameta. It's more funds It's more funds in the Philippines. Talagang, talagang, wala talaga eh. Yung ibang comments, ayoko nang basahin na para medyo talagang baka maano tayo dyan. Delix tayo dyan. Ayan na. Ayan na naman tayo. Sige na nga. Palitan na natin yung motto natin sa turismo. It's more fun in the Philippines. Okay na, okay na. Magpagpakabait na ako ha. Baka may matutroll na naman tayo. Okay. Have a good day guys. Thank you. Nakikita yung mukha ko habang nag-greet. Ayan na naman tayo. Live tayo. Live na medyo balahura na konti. Alright. Thank you very much guys. Thank you very much. God bless you and have a lovely weekend. Oh, by the way, mamayang gabi, God willing, magkaroon kami ng discussion ulit. Next to episode 4 kami ni Dr. Lisandro Claudio joining us from University of California, Berkeley, San Francisco. Sorry, yung time difference kasi. So, mamayang gabi ha. Don't forget us. Magkakaroon kami ng discussion ni Leloy. I'm sure there's a lot to discuss. Hindi siya masyadong fan ng World Cup, but I'm sure fan siya ni funds. Pag-usapan natin mga sovereign wealth funds, inflation na naman, yung mga nagbabalahura sa atin na yung mga dilawan na trolls namin. Sige, go lang. Go lang. And also World Cup. Hindi, walang World Cup. Basta mga kameta ha, mamayang gabi, God willing. Episode 4 na, next week kami ni Leloy. Claudio joining us from San Francisco. Berkeley. Yeah. Okay, bye-bye. Ingat. Oy, may World Cup pa. After that, magmano tayo ng World Cup. Okay, let's go. Bye-bye. Ingat.